Back everyone, we've got a seriously fascinating explainer lined up for you today. We're going to be unpacking some highly compelling source material, specifically a very passionate presentation by content creators Abi and Niu. What they've done is attempt to rank the top 10 most financially devastating invasions in Indian history. They've essentially compiled historical estimates to create this massive countdown of the wealth that was drained from the Indian subcontinent over the centuries. Now, it's a pretty heavy topic for sure, but we're going to break it down clearly and objectively to understand exactly what their historical estimates reveal. So, let's dive right in.
Right off the bat, to really get this material, you have to understand the tone the creators are using. Early on, they make this powerful statement declaring that hearing about their #1 entry literally makes their blood boil. And that perfectly illustrates just how emotive and deeply felt this history is for them. They aren't just reading off a dry spreadsheet of historical facts here. They are narrating a story of profound historical loss. Throughout this explainer, we are strictly going to report on the numerical estimates they present, but it's really crucial to keep this passionate context in the back of your mind.
So that brings us to the big question, right? Just how much wealth are we actually talking about here? That is the central question our source is attempting to answer today. We're going to map out this journey step by step, starting from regional plunders in the thousands of crores and scaling all the way up to numbers that are frankly kind of difficult to even comprehend. Section 1. The cost of invasions. Moving right along to Section 2, ranking 10 to 6.
Okay, let's look at how fast these numbers scale up. Starting at number 10, the creators point to Muhammad bin Qasim's invasion of Multan, which was known as the City of Gold, and they estimate it sent 10,000 crore back to the Arab Caliphate. At number 9, the Mongol invasions of Punjab drained roughly 400 crore. But then we see a massive jump at number 8. The Barji invasions of Bengal targeted the exceptionally wealthy Jagat Seth and the broader public. The source estimates a 75,000 crore loot that utterly ruined a once prosperous state. At number 7, Muhammad Ghori's attacks on the royal treasuries of Kannauj and Kashi brought local heritage to the dust, taking a staggering 1.2 lakh crore. And finally, by the time we reach number 6, Ahmad Shah Abdali's 8 separate attacks on Delhi and Mathura drained roughly 1.6 lakh crore in gold back to the hills of Afghanistan.
Which brings us to Section 3, the top 5 plunders.
Breaking into the top 5, we have Alauddin Khalji, and the estimates here are just massive. The creators cite a jaw-dropping 2 lakh crore in gold, along with elephants targeted from the temples of South India to enrich the Delhi Sultanate. Scaling up to rank 4, we have Mahmud of Ghazni. Across 17 separate devastating attacks, which included the famous Somnath Temple, an estimated 2.9 lakh crore in total wealth was taken and eventually auctioned off in the markets of Ghazni.
Coming in at number 3 is Timur. The creators use incredibly vivid language for this one, actually stating that gold was essentially stripped from every single street in Delhi. Their estimate? 3.3 lakh crore in total wealth, all drained away for the express purpose of enriching the city of Samarkand.
And here we are at rank number 2, Nader Shah. The source highlights that along with taking the legendary Peacock Throne and the Kohinoor Diamond, the total loot amounted to an estimated 12.5 lakh crore. To really put that into perspective, this amount was so impossibly huge that when Nader Shah returned home, he didn't even collect taxes in his own country for 3 entire years. I mean, that is just wild to think about.
Section 4. The ultimate wealth drain.
Brace yourselves for this one, because the financial scale is about to shift from regional plunder to an unprecedented global transfer of wealth. For rank number 1, which they assign to the British Raj, the source explicitly states this shouldn't just be called loot. They actually term it a systematic dacoity. Essentially, they are describing an organized, systemic robbery of a nation's resources stretched out over a vast period of time.
The sheer scale of this is honestly hard to even fathom. Just look at the second biggest plunder on the list, Nader Shah, sitting at 12.5 lakh crore. But the British era? The source estimates the total wealth drained at an astronomical 3,700 lakh crore. The visual disparity between those two is absolutely massive. So how do we translate that 3,700 lakh crore into a modern global context? Well, the source brings up a highly cited figure, 45 trillion US dollars. The creators emphasize that this systematic drain of $45 trillion was actually greater than Britain's entire gross domestic product. They present this figure to argue that this wasn't just a historical event, but a fundamental alteration of India's entire economic trajectory.
Section 5. A resilient nation.
Now, after presenting such a heavy, data-driven countdown, the creators do a really passionate pivot. They conclude their narrative by focusing on the concept of jigar. They argue that despite losing all of this immense wealth over centuries of invasions and systemic drains, India is standing back up today. And the reason, they state, is because the soil of the country contains not just gold, but jigar, which is the courage, resilience, and inner strength to survive devastation and rebuild. It's a really powerful concluding thought to their explainer.
And that brings us to the end of this countdown. We've gone from local skirmishes to a $45 trillion global shift. So I want to leave you with this final thought. How does this historical wealth drain, assuming these massive estimates are accurate, continue to shape the modern global economy we are all living in right now? Because history isn't just in the past, right? It builds the financial foundations of our present. Keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.